What's going on, everyone? It's me, Julius, aka JR Media, and welcome back to the 4K Blu-ray and DVD collection. We now move on to part 8 here. So basically this one is, again, just talking like various different franchises and movies and such. So a couple of things. We'll talk about Scream, the whole Scream franchise. Talk about, interesting, the Resident Evil animated movies. That's quite fun. Also talk about the Sopranos, as well as talking about all the Star Trek movies as well as also having a very long rant about a particular Saw film. So if you enjoy Saw or don't enjoy Saw, that could be quite a fun sort of rant to get to. So yeah, a bit of a funny, enjoyable kind of time there. So but regardless, anyway, let's get right into it, shall we? Then moving on to the R section, we have Resident Evil Degeneration. Now you might be wondering, what the heck is this? So these next I think these next 5, so this included, these next 5 ones I'm going to show, these are straight to DVD, or here, straight to Blu-ray, or digital on demand, VOD. These are CG animated movies based on Resident Evil, in that these are actually canon. These are set in the game's universe, so these films are set between the games and such. So this is the first one, Resident Evil Degeneration. I basically wanted to pick these all up because at the moment I'm going through a big sort of Resident Evil marathon where I'm playing all the canon games, so including the original versions of them, like the PS1 versions of the original trilogy. So right now I am now up to playing through Resident Evil 4 original again, which I've played loads of times. But basically I wanted to buy these because as part of the marathon, these are canon movies, so I was like, I want to rewatch these, and they're not really available on many streaming services, so I thought I'll get these on here. I'll get these on Blu-ray anyway, even though I'm not sure if I'll rewatch a lot of them. I think only 1 or 2 of them I'll probably rewatch a lot, because these movies, they're good, but they're not amazing. Like, they're fine. Like, they're certainly better than all the live action versions, because these actually have the proper characters in it and are adapted well, and the story is mostly quite simple and stuff. So, but anyway, this first one, Degeneration, I haven't watched any of these in a long time. Mainly the original, the first 3, or these first 2 films, I haven't watched in a long time, so I haven't actually got up to watching these in my marathon yet. But I remember I did enjoy it. I think it's a cool idea to have this set in an airport. I think that's a very creative type new location that a Resident Evil either game or movie or whatever it could be set in. This, of course, reunites Leon Kennedy with Claire Redfield from Resident Evil 2, and that's kind of cool. You can definitely tell this is an anime type CG film, because Leon and Claire as well look very anime like, as well as Leon just acts like very emo anime like at times. So but yeah, all I remember about this one is it's set in an airport with like a big zombie virus outbreak, and I think I remember it was enjoyable. And from memory, I think this came out, I think, the year before Resident Evil 5, so I think this at the end, this ties into Resident Evil 5 with Tricell and stuff. So yeah, from memory, I remember I think this was an enjoyable film. But yeah, I'm looking forward to giving it a rewatch when I come up to it in my big Resident Evil marathon. Then we have Resident Evil Damnation. This is I think this is regarded as the best one from memory. Although personally, I'd sort of disagree. I think from memory it was good, but not amazing. But I don't think any of these are amazing. I think they're just good and enjoyable. But yeah, from memory, I think this has some interesting stuff. Like, it's very political in that, like, I think it's all about, like, there's this government that's trying to weaponize the BOWs or bioweapons, from memory, and I think this movie ends with like a massive, like, big fight in like a capital type square in the daytime with like lickers and tyrants and stuff. So it's pretty crazy. Ada's back in this, and so you get a reunion between her and Leon, which I think this is all set after Resident Evil 4, but before, I think, Resident Evil 6. I think Leon is also still quite anime protagonist here, where he's very moody and very cold and sort of, yeah, very dark and brooding, like, you know. So, yeah, I think he's all right. But, yeah, from memory, that's what I remember this one. So, again, looking forward to rewatching this one. Then we have Resident Evil Vendetta, if that will focus. There we go. This was the first one I think I watched from memory, or I might have... This is the one I remember watching when it sort of came out, because this came out, I think, around 2017, although... Actually, no, it wouldn't have been, because I only got into Resident Evil like 2019 when RE2 sort of came out. But yeah, so this was one where I watched sort of semi-recently to when it came out. And I was sort of looking forward to watching this one because this was the first sort of any sort of Resident Evil media where Leon Kennedy and Chris Redfield team up. The two biggest Resident Evil protagonists, apart from, I think, Jill. Jill Valentine deserves a spot there, but regardless, just it's cool seeing them team up here. This also featured the first reappearance of Rebecca Chambers, who was last seen all the way back in the first Resident Evil. Like, after that first film, we just never heard from her again. Like, we assumed she just left Raccoon City afterwards before it all went to hell. But now we catch up with her when now she's like a medic, or like she's now like a scientist. At like a university or something. This movie is ridiculously over the top. Like with the other movies, like it goes for just so over the topness of things. I do think the first, like the opening scene, I think it's the opening scene from memory, is really cool, where Chris and a team are infiltrating a mansion, you know, very Resident Evil-like, to rescue this, I think this, I can't remember who it is, this woman and her son, in order, and for some reason, and it's basically this really, like, claustrophobic horror scene, which encapsulates the game's atmosphere so damn well, and I think that's great. But then afterwards it becomes sort of a bog sort of standard sort of action type film, although I think that's okay, because by this point, like, Leon and Chris are like, and as Rebecca as well, are like absolute veterans at this. Like they've been doing this like for like over 10 years at this point. So yeah, it makes sense why there's like this is more action focused than horror. But yeah, I think it's done fine. The villain Glenn Aries, he's all right. I think his whole plot thing with Rebecca though is very dumb. Where the fact that you find out like Rebecca looks exactly like this guy's deceased wife. And so he wants to like marry her and stuff, and he puts her in the wedding dress and stuff. It's just like, what? Like, that's so stupid. But you do get some really good action sequences. Like, you have that great, amazing bit where Leon and Chris team up to take out a bunch of zombies in that hallway. That's just so cool. And then, of course, you've got the big fight between Chris and Glenn Aries, where what people will dub gung fu, where it's just them just like shooting like so close towards each other and doing flips and stuff, just barely missing and stuff. Absolutely ridiculous, absolutely over the top, but I do love it. So yeah, Resident Evil Vendetta, I do enjoy it, but yeah, it's not the greatest movie ever made. It's silly, dumb, fun and such, so yeah. Then we have Resident Evil Infinite Darkness. This is the television show that came out on Netflix. Although, I don't know why this was a TV show when it was only like 4 episodes. It just felt like a movie just split up into like 4 or 5 parts. Like, I think there was only 3 actually. 3 parts. And so I don't know why they decided to make this TV show, but they did, I guess. So yeah, I remember thinking it was okay. I think I watched this when it came out. I think it, like with the other films, it's just a very bog standard Resident Evil adventure. This, of course, brings back Leon and Claire. Although I can't remember. I think this is set after Resident Evil. This is definitely set after Resident Evil 4, as well as I think also after Degeneration, but I think before Damnation from memory. So because yeah, I think yeah, like from memory, I think it's been so long because I only watched this once when it came out, which was like I think 2021 or something. But I think I remember thinking it was fine. Like the whole plot from memory was all about this soldier who has PTSD or something. And he's being like brought into this like evil nefarious company that's doing various bioweapon research. I think the main stickler I have with this TV show is Claire's just absolutely wasted in this. Like from memory, like she only does like a tiny bit of like detective work, and then she just gets captured in order for Leon to rescue her. So they kind of do Claire a bit dirty here. And that's what I remember about this, because it just feels like Claire wasn't really that vital to be in this TV show. So yeah, I just remember that, as well as the ending, which I actually kind of thought was an interesting angle to go, where they have a falling out in that Leon doesn't want to give the evidence over to Claire in order to expose to the public, because he's got to protect like the government and stuff. I thought that was really interesting, but I don't know. But in retrospect, it's been like 5 years since that movie, that TV show, and the next movie we get, this CGI series / movies, is set way after all this, which is set like after Resident Evil 6, and so you basically have that dynamic anymore. Like we just have to presume that Leon and Claire just made up and sort of reconciled with that whole debacle of giving the evidence over to the public and stuff. So I assumed when this came out I liked it, because I thought we might get maybe either another season of this or a new movie that would follow up on this, but in reality you just haven't. So at the moment it kind of feels just a bit of a damn squid, a bit pointless to end that movie on. So but yeah, this TV show I just thought was okay, but it just really did not need to be a TV show. It really just should have just been a movie, given its lengthwise. So, yeah. All right. And then finally we have Resident Evil Death Island. Will you focus? There we go. This is the latest CGI Resident Evil movie. I think this came out 2 years ago about. And unashamedly, this is my favorite. I think this is the only one that I think I would say is actually good. Like I'd probably give it like a 7 out of 10, whereas the others I'd probably give maybe a 6 or a 5 or something. I don't know. I think sure it is just like it is Resident Evil's version of the Avengers, where it basically brings every single protagonist from the first 6 games together and brings it into this big story about with Alcatraz, with like a new virus that has infected people who have visited Alcatraz, and you find out it's all because of this guy who was a soldier who was part of the Umbrella paramilitary, the people that Carlos from Resident Evil 3, those guys, where he was ordered to like murder just all his fellow teammates and stuff, which I think is actually an interesting sort of compelling sort of idea for a villain and such. But yeah, I think this is great. I think what makes this movie so damn good is they make Jill the forefront, because this is the first time we've seen Jill Valentine since Resident Evil 5, and that's the other thing I like about this is it feels very connected with the rest of the universe. Like this feels like the aftermath of what a lot of stuff happened in both Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6. Like for Jill, the fact that like in Resident Evil 5, it was revealed she had been under the control of Albert Wesker for like 3 years. And of course, that would have some trauma on her. And then, of course, with Chris, with what happened in Resident Evil 6, where he had this new protege with Piers, who he believed would actually take over from him as his role. But then, of course, if you played Resident Evil 6, he died. So I love how a lot of it is connected, and there's some just great there's some great scenes where the characters just talk about their trauma and with what they've been through for the past, where we're sort of catching up, because some of these characters we haven't seen chronologically for a long time, like mainly Jill and Claire. So, and Rebecca too, I think, yeah, even though Rebecca appeared in the last movie. But yeah, I think, yeah, it's good that they make Jill the focus for this one. It really feels fresh. I think her dynamic between her and Leon is really fun to see. Like, the bit when they're in the sewers is great. I think that's damn good fun. The choice to have her look like her, just a Resident Evil 3 remake model, that just screams of laziness, to be honest. Like, they've just got, like, they were like, we don't want to age up Jill, and so we'll just use this model, and we'll just say the T virus that she's infected in Resident Evil 3 actually stops her from aging, which is just so baffling. But I believe it is. There's some sort of unwritten sort of theory that apparently Japanese franchises, they don't like when female characters age too much. They think they're more profitable when they're young. So that's probably a reason why they decide to do that rather than just being pure laziness. But it just feels so bizarre because, like, everyone else you could clearly see is just, especially Chris and Leon look very much of their age, and then there's Jill, who just looks like exactly how she's just looking like 30 compared to these guys who are like pushing like 50. Although they're actually probably pushing 60 by this point. I think Leon in Requiem is like supposed to be like 65 or something. I might be a bit inaccurate there, but I can't remember the timeline of things. But I think, yeah, they're old. So, but yeah. So this movie, I think, is a great fun time. I think it's just really cool to see all the protagonists over the years teaming up and having there's at least some effort to put some character work in here and stuff. So I think, yeah, this is my personal favorite of the CG movies. I think this is the best Resident Evil movie. Sure, you could probably argue it's probably because of the fan service of people, of all the characters teaming up, but I think regardless, I think it's still a solid movie and just really enjoyable. If you're a Resident Evil fan, check it out. It's a good fun time. Okay, then moving on, we go into the S category where we kick it off with Saw 3D, the final chapter on 3D Blu-ray. Okay, so my history with or my backstory with Saw is one of my mates sort of got me into it, probably a bit too young for this movie series, but I remember, I think a couple of years ago, I decided to fully watch all the films back to back, and I really enjoy them. Like, I acknowledge a lot of people accuse them for being like torture porn and stuff, where it's just like only for torture, but that's not my interest for it. My interest for this franchise is just how batshit crazy this entire franchise goes with its storyline, in that it is so convoluted and so soap opera like that it's just so entertaining. Like, the way it's just so crazily told, each movie gets just more crazy in terms of like various like jigsaw apprentices, like finding out people who like survive different traps and stuff. Like, just this whole convoluted storyline is just so fascinating to me. I just really love it. And so, but the torture stuff I can like take or leave, which I get is the main point of these films. But for me personally, it's the absolutely crazy, like insane storylines that this sprawls into, where it feels just like a soap opera, where you're following like this, you follow, of course, the Jigsaw Killer, John Kramer, with his interesting philosophy about, you know, how like he doesn't view himself as a serial killer, but he ultimately is. Like, that whole philosophy thing, it just gets chucked out the window just almost immediately. Like, even in that first movie, like, there's a bit where like there's like a brief flashback where he puts a guy in a room with broken glass. He's naked, he's covered in flammable jelly, and he's got a poison running through his veins. And not only all that, he has to find the code for the safe that has an antidote on it, which is somewhere written on the walls, which are just all crawling with different numbers. And he has to do that in 1 hour. Like, what the hell? What did this guy do? And then you find out what he did was he blew off work to be sick, to pretend he was sick. Like, what the hell? Like, even in that first movie, it completely almost destroys Jigsaw's whole philosophy thing about how he doesn't view himself as a serial killer. He's like, he doesn't make unwinnable traps. Someone else can't save them. They have to save themselves. Like, it's just, the philosophy is, let's just get that out of the way. Like, it's an absolute hypocrisy at its finest. But regardless, I think he's still a very compelling character in John Kramer, and I think it's very, very. To be honest, I start to really love it after they kill him off in Saw 3. Like, even though when we get in Saw 4 introduces like Hoffman and stuff, even though Hoffman isn't the greatest character ever, I still really enjoy that whole arc. I just enjoy just how just insane it goes, and we get all the flashbacks and stuff. So yeah, so talking about this movie, when I first watched it, I thought it was okay. I thought it was a serviceable end to the Saw storyline at the time, because this was supposed to be billed as the final chapter, as it said. However, when last Halloween, so Halloween last year, I did a big rewatch of the Saw franchise, and I decided I would pick this up on 3D Blu-ray because I wanted to see how it looked on 3D, and I hated it. Like, a lot of people say this is the worst of the franchise, and I can agree. It is just, oh my word, it's so terrible. Like, it's like, you can really tell the fact that this movie was just a production nightmare behind the scenes, because originally, I believe this was supposed to be, the final chapter was supposed to be 2 movies it was supposed to be a 2-part sort of wrap up of the entire sort of storyline. But since Saw 6 didn't perform, was the lowest performing box in terms of the box office, because by that point we'd had a Saw movie come out every year, which is absolutely crazy to think about, and probably why a lot of people view that after 3 it just nosedived. But personally, I thought I that's when I think it gets really interesting. But after that they were like, yeah, no. I know you can get one more movie, but everything you want to do, you got to do it in that one movie, because we're not going to give you a 2-parter. So basically, what they had to do was they had to cram this 2-parter film story into one, and it's just such a mess. It's such a mess. Like, the way Saw 6 ended with, Hoffman just barely escaping, and like, the idea of, like, the fact that this one's supposed to be like, it's all about the big sort of thing where Hoffman's going after Jill and stuff, I think is just the premise was there, and they do sort of do that, but they do a lot of just other messy stuff as well. Of course, since this is the first one filmed in 3D, because this was made when Avatar had come out, so they wanted to capture the 3D craze. So they had to use these cameras, and the quality just looks so damn awful. Like, it looks such like a visual downgrade. When you watch Saw 6 and then Saw 3D, like, when you watch the final scene of Saw 6 being recapped in Saw 3D, you just see the visual downgrade this movie is, because they're using these cameras that are just absolutely awful in order to capture just really crap 3D. Like, it's so gimmicky. Like I don't even, like, after I watched this, I was like, yeah, like, I don't think I'll ever watch this on 3D Blu-ray again, so this was probably a bit of a waste. But yeah, like, I think just the 3D gimmick, the 3D look of it is just absolutely awful. The visuals just look atrocious. Like, this is infamous for having the pink blood because of the color grading, because I believe it's either due to the 3D cameras or censorship or something. They had to, like, key the blood to be pink, because, like, you see all the blood in this, it's all pink and stuff. It's, like, so distracting. But yeah, this movie is just absolutely horrible, in especially story wise. Like, I think having another, like, Jigsaw game going on at the same time as this, it just feels, I don't think we needed that. Although I do think the premise is very interesting and could have been very compelling, where you basically follow this guy who was on the news and claimed to be a Jigsaw survivor, and was once put in a trap and then survived. But then you find out it's all BS. He just lied about it in order to get famous and stuff. And I think that's a really interesting idea, and definitely someone Jigsaw would actually go for. But it's not executed well at all. It's just absolutely atrocious. And the biggest scene of this movie is, it just feels so mean. Like, the other movies, I think, like, the other movies I get, people view those as torture porn where people just are just endless cannon fodder. And I see that. I understand. I personally don't agree. I think everything up until this point is not just pure, just like torture porn and just like absolute mean-spiritedness. This is the first one where I agree with like the claims of this whole series just being full on, just only for the torture porn, because like the creators were like, okay, this is like, we get it. People only come for this just to see people just get murdered in horrible ways, and the story is just off in the distance playing second fiddle to everything. So this is the first one where I'm just like, yeah, I fully agree. This is just absolutely just absolute awful torture porn slop. I think it's also just very mean-spirited compared to the other movies, because it feels very much, I think I've seen a lot of people sort of say this movie feels very misogynistic and very vile against women, and I gotta agree, like there's a lot of stuff in this that's like compared to the other Saw movies where it feels so brutal, especially targeted towards all the female characters. Like the one big scene I'm talking about is the scene with the main, I think Bobby is his name, the guy who fakes being a jigsaw survivor. His wife is brought into this game, even though you find out she's completely innocent. She had no idea that her husband, who she married without ever knowing that he faked this whole thing. Like, you're given the impression she married him because he was a jigsaw survivor. So, like, she's a completely innocent person in this, yet she gets chained in this, like, furnace thing. And then every time he fails to help someone get out of a trap, every time a chain yanks her to the point where she has to be on her knees and she's got a chain around her collar. It sends some very, very gnarly messages and stuff. And then, of course, she gets burnt alive for some reason, which is the worst death in this entire franchise. Not in like a shocking thing, but in terms of like an actual, like the worst critically. Like this should not have been in the movie. Like it is an absolute disgrace that like you have this poor woman who just gets murdered solely because she married a guy who pretended to be a jigsaw survivor. Like it just feels such a far cry from like what the original films were doing. Like it just feels so insulting. And then of course you've got the ending where like basically like Hoffman finds Jill brutally, just very uncomfortably, just brutally beats her while just calling her just horrific like words and stuff. And then he then just puts like the reverse bear trap on her, and then you just see in visual detail as her whole mouth is ripped open. And it's just like, it's just so vile and just so feel uncomfortable. And it's like, that's like Saw's all about, just how vile like those traps and stuff are. But it's just the fact this movie just feels so just like vile against particularly women, because this is the other thing as well. In at least the other Saw films, there's at least someone who does survive their trap. Like throughout this whole, whenever there's a game or anything, there is someone who does survive there's at least someone who survives their trap. And so there's a bit of hope in this. Everyone in their trap dies. Like everyone who is put into a trap dies. So again, this feels like the thing where the producers were like, yeah, people only come for this just to watch people die. So let's just do that and not give a toss about the story. So, but yeah, and just all the way, just the women who are put in these traps are just horrifically murdered in just these awful ways. It just feels very, very just. It does borderline on misogyny at times. So I think there's just a vial of that where it just does not like women. So I'm sorry, I'm making a big point about that, but it's a very much thing I can see very much present, and a lot of people have attributed to that in the movie. And I think it's because I believe there was one of the producers was going through a divorce at the time. So it's the same sort of thing with Temple of Doom, but way, way worse, because this Temple of Doom just feels really just a lot darker and a bit more grislier, whereas this just feels very just nasty and immorally just wrong with just how like messed up it is. So yeah, that's my long thoughts on this absolute shite movie. And I haven't even talked about the whole Dr. Lawrence Gordon reveal, which is just absolutely brain dead stupid, and I think insanely predictable, considering his first entrance in the movie is just so cartoonishly evil, with him like clapping and looking so sinister. Like you see the twist coming a mile away, and it just does not make sense. Like, I just do not get how on earth does this guy, after the first movie, decide to become a secret jigsaw apprentice. Like, so stupid. Like, but regardless, I think, yeah, it's an absolute awful, awful movie and just should not exist. And it sucks that this was, like, supposed to be chronologically the end of this sort of era of the Saw saga. And even though we got 2 movies after this, it's all soft reboot. So, yeah, this movie is just absolutely a train wreck and a disgrace to what I like about the Saw series. But regardless, that's my thoughts on that. And I guess it's cool to have it on 3D Blu-ray, even if the 3D sucks ass. But yeah, can you tell I hate this movie? Yeah, you can. So let's move on, shall we? Then we have Scarface on 4K, or what I like to call this movie, Vice City, the movie, because GTA Vice City just took pretty much all its elements from this and then applied it to that, even down to Tony's mansion just being the same as Tommy's. But yeah, this movie is fantastic. I rewatched this the other week, actually, or like at least a month ago, and I watched it on 4K, and it's great. Like, it's a great mafia mobster movie. Very much like with Al Pacino's like other greats with like Godfather and such. You just see just the moral decline of Tony Montana. Although, to be honest, he starts out as just a douchebag anyway. Like, and compared to Michael Corleone, where he's like, you know, he's like the one who wants to be out of the family, who wants to go do good, and but in this, Tony Montana he starts off as just like the first thing he really does in this movie, he just kills a guy in order to get a green card, in order to live in Miami. Like, he doesn't start out as a great guy. He just starts out as a bad guy and just gets even worse. But he does have like some redemptive qualities throughout most of the film. But regardless, I think that's what makes it really so damn good. I think it's just a great film about, you know, this guy who gets brought into like this mobster life, who goes from 0, rises to 100, and then by the end of the movie falls back down to 0. I think it's just superbly shot as well. The soundtrack is great. The Miami vibe is perfect. You can see why, again, GTA Vice City took most of its influence from this movie. I think it's just such a cool vibe and stuff. And just the character arc of Tony Montana just becoming like him rising and then like thinking everything's all good before showing how he is just becoming an absolute awful person to all the people around him, and then everyone just either leaves or he gets them killed, and it leads into a big final standoff with all these guys, and you get that iconic scene of, you know, say hello to my little friend and stuff. So I think, yeah, Scarface is one of the best like mafia films. Like, we all know it. It's absolutely iconic. Great soundtrack, great characters, great vibe, just a great cautionary tale, like with Goodfellas, about how just the mafia or mobster life seems cool at first, but it will corrupt you, or someone else will just come out and just kill you and stuff. So it's just not the best life to live, even though it might look like that on the surface. So yeah, great film, phenomenally influential, and looks absolutely spectacular in 4K. Then we move on to Scooby-Doo. We have here Scooby-Doo, the movie, and Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed. So these were the 2 movies that came out in the 2000s with the live-action adaptations, and they're a nostalgic favourite for me. I grew up on watching these 2 films, and they're just really damn fun. The first movie, I think, is okay, but you could really tell it was supposed to be almost like a parody of Scooby-Doo. I think you find out that apparently James Gunn, who actually wrote both these movies, he wanted, the original idea for the first movie was it to be rated R, and you could definitely tell that, because while they cut a lot of it down, there's a lot of adult jokes in that first movie. So yeah, it does feel at times it is trying to be like a bit of a parody. Also, that first movie is the most 2000s movie I've ever seen. Like, it is just unashamedly set during that time period with the fashion, the music, the celebrities in it and stuff. It just so screams so obviously this was made in 2002. But yeah, I think the biggest compliment for these movies are the cast. Like, the cast are one of the most exceptionally cast, like, adaptions of just any sort of property. I think just everyone is just so damn good and so good that, like, it's just so influential. Like, Matthew Lillard as Shaggy is so damn good in this movie that they, after the original voice for Shaggy retired, they decided to get him in to voice all the animated movies and stuff, and he's just so damn good. I think everything in this is great. Scooby is a bit his CGI is not amazing, but I think he is still damn good. He's certainly better CG than the big monsters from that first movie. But yeah, I think the idea for the first movie to have Scrappy Doo to be the main villain is hilarious, and I think it makes sense given that time period when everyone hated Scrappy Doo. And so yeah, I think that's great. I also really love the reinvention of Daphne, because I think this is the first one that basically makes her not. This is when she changes from being the damsel in distress who really does nothing to becoming a, like, full-on badass with, like, having ninja skills and stuff. And I think that's a great new version of her character, and that's what gets adapted for all the movies, like, going forward and stuff. So I think that's great. But yeah, I think the first movie is okay, but it does feel very much like a parody at sorts. Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed is the better movie. I think this feels more like an earnest Scooby-Doo movie because it brings a lot of the villains back. It's set in their hometown of Coolsville. They have that crazy, like, Mission Impossible type headquarters where it's just so sci-fi looking. It's crazy. But I think, yeah, this one's great, where it's like with the first movie, they actually have to fight physical monsters that actually exist that are made from this, like, machine thing. So I think, yeah, that second movie is the better of the two. But I think these movies are just so damn special and just so memorable and just so iconic for a reason. So, yeah, these movies, I love them to death. Then we have Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. This is actually not my Blu-ray. I bought this, I think, for my sister because she was a big fan of this movie. And to be honest, I've only watched it once, but I do need to watch it again because it is Edgar Wright, and I love Edgar Wright, so I need to watch this movie again. But from what I remember, yeah, it was a fun time. I think this is, of course, based on the comic book Scott Pilgrim, and I think, yeah, it's a very fun film. Just having this guy who has to beat this girl's seven exes in order to be with her, I think is just such a funny idea. And I think the style of it is so cool, like the way it just feels like a comic book come to life at times, and just like the soundtrack is also really memorable and stuff. So yeah, I need to give this another rewatch because I have not watched this in ages, and I've just put it in the collection here because I think my sister was like, that's cool, but I don't really collect Blu-rays, which is fair enough. So yeah, so that's just in the collection here. But yeah, I do need to rewatch it sometime because it is Edgar Wright, and I do love Edgar Wright. Then here we have the Scream franchise, starting, of course, with Scream. So these next three, which are the first three Scream movies, these, as you can see, are the UK ones, because even though these were released in Australia, these did go out of print, but this one actually did just come back in print, actually, the first one. But I wanted to get the UK versions because I thought I wanted to get the standard Blu-rays included with it, and the Australian 4Ks of these did not include the original Blu-rays, they just included the 4K. So I thought, okay, well, maybe I just get the Australian 4K and then maybe I just buy the Blu-ray somewhere on cheap prices. But from what I saw, they only released the Blu-ray once, which was this, like, under this boutique label, called, like, D-Fi or something. I can't remember. And apparently, like, the quality of that transfer wasn't as good. I also didn't like the cover of those. I think they just looked quite ugly. So basically I decided I would get the UK versions because they were the 4Ks as the same with Australia, but they came included with the standard Blu-rays. So that were from like original, that weren't those DeFi versions of from Australia. However, after I bought these, I found out that there was original Blu-ray release that wasn't by that company, and had the original poster artwork on that. So, oh well, it is what it is. But anyway, so yeah, Scream is one of my favorite horror franchises. It's in my like top 3. I think this first film is fantastic. Just so damn good, so quotable, so memorable. You can see it really broke the mold with like horror films, with it being meta, being very comedic, and just such a damn good movie. I think, yeah, like even the twist with spoilers for, again, like over about a 30-year-old movie. Like, even the twist with Billy Loomis being the killer, even though it feels so obvious, I think is great, because the way I always saw it is it's supposed to be a red herring where you're like, he's so obviously the killer that they're not going to do that. And then you find out, oh, wait, they actually do. Oh, wow. So, but yeah, I think him as well as Stu Markner, played brilliantly by Shaggy actor Matthew Lillard, is fantastic. And just the character of Sydney Campbell as the protagonist is great, and I think she's just really compelling and stuff. So yeah, this first movie is absolutely spectacular. It's phenomenal. The characters are great. All this, of course, introduces everyone, and of course, like the main team of Sydney, Gale, and Dewey. Love Dewey. Dewey's the best. I love him in this first movie as well, where he's just such a like out of depth cop who's like who's like almost young enough to be around like the high school kids and like chill with them and stuff, but of course no, he's not. He's a respectable police officer. So but I think, yeah, he's really funny and just really enjoyable and stuff. And of course Gail starts off as just an absolute annoying person, as a journalist would be, where she's trying to get nosy into details for a big story and stuff. But anyway, this first movie is fantastic and looks really damn good on 4K. So yeah. Then we have Scream 2, which is almost as equally as good, I'd say, as the first movie, but not quite. I think this is still a fantastic sequel. I think it does a lot of, it really does widen the scope of things, with the fact this is now set at a college campus. I think the expanded characters are interesting to see. I will say, though, I still don't like the fact that they, spoiler alert for this movie, they kill Randy. I understand why they did it, to raise the stakes, to have someone from the previous movie die, but oh man, I really wish they kept Randy, because he was so damn good, and I think we could have got some really good potential with him as he went along, and maybe kill him off maybe in the 3rd or 4th film. But I think, yeah, it's a shame they killed him here, but I understand why they did it. But yeah, I think the killer reveals are quite good in this one. I think they might be maybe the second best, or maybe the ones from Scream 4. I think those are tied. But yeah, the killers in this, where you find out it's Timothy Olyphant's character, and he's basically doing this whole thing that was happening at the time when, like, you know, movies and video games was causing violence. Well, that's what like governments and politicians were sort of saying. And so basically, Timothy Olyphant's character is like all about how he's doing all this so he can like do it for fun and stuff, and he's got the perfect alibi, because when they capture him, he could just say he's going to blame the movies and stuff for doing it for him, and he'll get off scot-free, because during that time that was a big thing that was sort of happening and stuff, and so it's like a sort of like an insanity type plea. But I think that's a very interesting and meta way to continue with the whole meta-ness of the Scream movies and the killer's motivations and stuff. And then you've also got the other killer, which is revealed to be Sydney, Mrs. Loomis, who is Billy Loomis's mum, and I think she's I think is perfectly placed, where she's in it enough for you to at least remember she's a character, but not enough to the point where you just suspect her. So I think it's a great balance they do with that sort of character there. And when you find out, yeah, who she is and what her backstory is, I think is great. But yeah, I think Scream 2 is damn good. I think it's a great follow up. But it's not quite as good as Scream 1, but it's still a damn good film. And I think there's some really good sequences in this. Like the scene where they have to cross Ghostface across the car is unbelievably intense. I think the stage final act is really cool. And yeah, I think also just the whole chase sequence in the dorms, well, in the sorority house with Sydney and Ghostface, I think is great. Like, that scene when Ghostface comes out of nowhere, but he accidentally like falls over that chair that falls that falls down is absolutely hilarious. That's another thing I love about the Scream series is Ghostface is always just like, it's the most realistic depiction of a serial killer wearing a mask and chasing people, because they're not going to have great vision. So they keep on tripping, they keep on falling over. They either have things thrown at them or doors slammed in their faces. Like, it just feels so. It feels so realistic how accurately someone who would decide to do that would, and that's what makes it so hilarious. But yeah, yeah, Scream 2, great sequel, but not quite as good as the first one. Then we have Scream 3, which actually comes in a slipcover, because this is the only... I bought these three films in a bundle, and only this one came with the slipcover, so... Oh, well, but that's alright. Scream 3, this was, for the longest time, considered the weakest Scream film, until the most recent one apparently came out. I still have not watched it yet, although I think it's come out on video on demand already, even though it came out like a month ago. So I will check it out. But from all the reviews I've seen, it does seem to be this has been dethroned as the weakest. I think 7 has become the weakest now, but this one I thought was good. I think it is. I think before 7, even though I haven't seen 7 yet, it was the weakest, or is the weakest at the moment for me personally. I think it's immediately, this was when the whole video game violence and film violence in media was skyrocketing, because I think this came out right around the time of the Columbine massacre. So basically this one was stripped back in terms of violence, in that you don't see much blood or gore. Like, when someone gets stabbed, you just don't see any blood or anything. So it's a lot more sort of stripped back in terms of sense of blood and gore and stuff. But yeah, I think the choice to have this all set in Hollywood is interesting, and I think that continues that great meta-ness where it's all about the stab films in, like, you know, in universe. Like, basically after the first movie, Hollywood like decided to make movies based on what happened in the events of the first film, and then as well as the second, and so on. So by this point they're making a new one, and it's like follows like Sydney Gale and Dewey interacting with all these actors who are supposed to be playing them, and so it's very meta in such, and I think that's a very interesting idea. I think it doesn't hold together a lot well. I think the story about how Sydney's mom had a secret life before she died in Hollywood is kind of interesting, and I think retroactively it's very interesting, and also kind of an interesting forewarning, because it's very much like the implication of all this is all about, you know, Harvey Weinstein, and how big media producers would get young actresses to do really immoral things in order to be in big movies and stuff. So it's very much in there, and you can very much tell like what Wes Craven was like putting sort of a political sort of or like a commentary on what was happening in Harvey Weinstein at the time. So looking back at this movie, it feels very much like a middle finger to Weinstein and stuff, which is crazy because it feels so on the nose that it feels crazy that like because I think these movies, I think Dimension Films, who make these movies, I think they were owned by Harvey Weinstein from memory. It's crazy that he just never picked up on the commentary on this movie. Like, it's like is like, he never thought watching this movie at the premiere or anything, was like thinking, is this movie about me? Like, that's absolutely crazy. But I think it's a really awesome sort of idea. But I think just the whole movie is just, there's not much oomph to it. I don't know why. Like, I think it's just very sort of flat. I think also some of the killer things are a bit sort of unrealistic. This has the voice changer thing where Ghostface is able to change his voice to be anything, which feels a bit sort of unrealistic, because there's no way you had that type of technology back in 2000. Like, that just feels a bit completely sort of thing. And then sort of the ending is a bit generic, of just a run around at this this big Hollywood mansion, and then you get the killer reveal, for spoilers this movie, where you find out it's only this one guy who's Roman, who was the director of this Stan film, and you find out he's actually the secret brother of Sydney, and you basically find out he's kind of the one who kind of engineered Billy and Stu to get is it to, I think from memory, it's like, it gives them like the location of where to find Sydney's mum in order to murder her. So basically you get this whole thing where, yeah, like, Roman kind of set up the events of Scream 1, and so that kind of feels like a bit of just like half-assed, like retconning and touching something that didn't need to be touched and stuff. So I think, yeah, that whole bit is just a bit iffy, and overall I think it's just, yeah, I still feel, I think, like with a lot of people, I find it's baffling that, I think it's Allison, you know, the girl with the short hair, the one who gets stabbed, I think, in the bathroom. I think, like with everyone else, I thought it would have made more sense to have her be the second killer, because she's just so suspicious throughout the whole movie. So people headcanon it that, like, it was actually that she was in on it, but Roman killed her because she was, like, you know, slipping up in terms of her stories and stuff. So you can I guess you can kind of headcanon that she was, because it feels so unrealistic that only one person could do all this stuff that they do in that Ghostface does in this third film. So, but yeah, I think, yeah, overall this one, it's good but not great. But if your weakest movie is like a 7 out of 10, that's a damn good run of films there. Unfortunately, given what I've heard about Scream 7, that's kind of ruined it now, so I will have to see. But anyway, Scream 3, good but not amazing, and I think, but there is enjoyment to be had in it. Then we move on to Scream 4, just on standard Blu-ray, because it's this was the only one that hasn't been released on 4K until, I believe, I think as of recording this, like a couple of days ago, it was just announced that there's a 4K finally coming. So that will be interesting to get and see how it all looks. But yeah, so Scream 4 is, this came out like way after Scream 3, because Scream 3 was supposed to be billed as sort of like the last sort of final chapter of the Scream sort of saga. So Scream 4 was sort of like a soft sort of reboot where we introduced a lot of these sort of new characters and stuff, but Sydney was still the protagonist, and I think it's great. I think it's a great film. The look of this movie is a bit divisive for people, and I'm a bit flip-floppy on it. I think while it's an interesting design choice, sometimes it just doesn't look great. I think a lot of the stuff in the daytime just looks very distracting, with the fact that it's like, they basically put this like Vaseline sort of lens over the lens to make it all very glowy and sort of shiny and stuff. So it looks looks very soft as well, like especially during the daytime and stuff. It looks very soft, but at nighttime it actually looks really damn good. I don't know why they did that. I think I remember hearing some sort of thing about the fact that it was like Wes Craven was trying to make it look like other horror movies that were coming out at the time, but I can't think of a horror movie when around 2011 that looked like that. So I don't know, but so yeah, so a lot of people have a bit debated on it, to the point where I think there's been rumors that the 4K will have that cut, which I don't think they should do that. I think they should have an option where you can watch it without the Vaseline lens, but I think they should equally still have the original version with like the Vaseline lens, because that is Wes Craven's ultimate vision, and that's what he wanted the movie to look. So that's fair enough. So I think regardless, even if you do have a cut that doesn't have the Vaseline filter, you should still include the original cut with the Vaseline filter, is what I'm saying. So, but yeah, Scream 4 I think is great. I think all the characters, I think some of the characters are alright, some of them are meh. Like, I think Trevor was his name, Jill's boyfriend, is kind of cartoony in that he's supposed to be a red herring, in that you've like throughout the whole movie he's acting so suspicious over like just who like about like what, and so you're like, okay, this guy's definitely not going to be Ghostface because he's just putting it on way too thick and just such a red herring. But I think the really interesting ones are Jill, Kirby, and Charlie. And spoilers for this movie, of course, two of those are the killers, when one of them is just a really good character. I think Charlie first is really interesting because he's basically Randy if bad. Like he's the evil version of Randy. Like he's basically what if Randy was Ghostface. And I think it's a great reveal because throughout this whole movie he's pretty much just Randy but more nerdy. Like that whole scene when he's so nervous like to get with Kirby and stuff. And then you have that whole scene where Ghostface makes Kirby do the like horror movie trivia, like from the opening scene of the first movie, where Charlie's now the one to be strapped to the chair, and basically then after she rescues him and stuff, he then just out of nowhere just pulls a knife and just jams it through her gut, and like is just so just insulting to her because he's like, oh right, so now you recognize me, you actually like me, even though I've been sitting across from you in class for the past like 5 years. Like just so it feels very incel type like he feels very much like he's like a proto incel, like what because like this is of course before, like, even though social media is a bit of like is sort of in this movie because this is the time of like Instagram and stuff, it's not as heightened as what we get in Scream 5 and 6. So it feels very much Charlie's like a prototype to like the dude bro like culture and stuff that is today. So I think he's very interesting. Kirby as well is so interesting because she's essentially she's like the cheerleader type, like hot type girl, but she's also a nerd who loves movies, and so it's just so interesting to have her have like just basically have all these different character archetypes put into one character, and I think she's just very fascinating, and I'm really glad that they decided to retcon her death here by revealing she only just got a flesh wound.
Just a flesh wound.
And so she appeared in Scream 6. So I'm really glad about that. And then, of course, we come to Jill, who is like, if Charlie was the evil version of Randy, she's the evil version of Sydney, where basically the whole motivation of this is all about trying to get famous off like video content, because of like they basically have been filming all these kills and they're hoping they will go viral from it. And basically Jill, I think from memory, her motivation apart from that is the reason she's doing all this is because she just hates Sydney so much because her family and her mum would just bring her up so many times because of all the traumatic stuff she'd been through, that Jill was like, I want to be as famous as her and stuff. And basically that resentment turned into this messed up idea of like, what if I became Ghostface, and what if I tried to kill Sydney, and what if Sydney died, and I filmed the whole thing, but I was like the ultimate survivor. Like I was the Sydney that escaped, and what if I just got away with all my crimes? And she almost does. Like she fully she stabs and slices Sydney to the point where she's just unconscious and bleeding out. She kills Charlie in order to make sure like it's only the one survivor and no one knows about her that she was in on it, and basically then she becomes so dedicated. You see at the end she messes her up all herself. Like she throws herself onto a coffee table and stuff to make it look like she's been attacked by Ghostface. Like she's really dedicated to selling this story, and she almost gets away. And I believe this was revealed. I believe actually when Scream 7 was coming out, because director Kevin Williamson is the guy who wrote the first, second, and this movie, as well as directing Scream 7. And he basically said the original plan was she would get away with this, and Scream 5 would have been her, like, at college or something. And basically, it would all be about a new Ghostface hunting her in order to expose the truth that she was the previous Ghostface. And I think that would have been absolutely fascinating to see. Even though I really like what Scream 5 ended up being, I think that could have been so interesting. But apparently the studio weren't confident in that. So that's why in the last 5 minutes, there's a quick wrap up in the hospital where, like, Jill finds out Sydney didn't die from all those wounds and goes into her hospital room to go kill her. But then they have a quick scuffle, and then Sydney quickly kills Jill. So there's a very, very quick wrap up where it just feels much like with Die Hard with a Vengeance. It's like you have the feeling the movie is supposed to end with the villain getting away with it, but then there's suddenly like a 5-minute wrap up where they suddenly find the bad guy and kill them. So yeah, it does feel a bit of a weak climax, but I think regardless, I think it's still a great film, and a very interesting idea with, continuing the whole meta aspect of the Scream series, with this time with the motivation being all about getting famous off going viral and stuff, which was a very modern thing happening at the time, since YouTube and other social media was around at that point. So yeah, Scream 4, great film. Looking forward to picking this up on 4K when it comes out this year. Then we have Scream 5, or just Scream, because it's riffing on the big thing that was happening in the 2010s where horror sequels, or like soft reboots, they would just name their movie after the original movie exactly, rather than numbering or putting a subtitle. So that's kind of a fun idea, but it does fall into that problem where you're trying to figure out which movie is which. Like when you're looking it up, like you always have to put the year at the end, because otherwise you get confused what is Scream 1 or Scream 5. So, but yeah, Scream, I'm just going to call it Scream 5 because that's just easier rather than just calling it Scream. I think Scream 5 is, I think it's good. I think it's good. This is, of course, the first one to not be made by Wes Craven because he passed away a bit after Scream 4. So this is made by Radio Silence, a team who did Ready or Not, which is actually a really damn fun film. And I remember I watched this first, and then I watched Ready or Not, and then maybe it's because I watched this first, but I felt in Ready or Not, it's like, yeah, they're perfect to take over for Scream. So yeah, this movie I think is great. This is the passing of the torch type movie where we introduce this new cast of characters that we follow with Sam and Tara, these two sisters, where you find out Sam is actually the daughter of Billy Loomis from the first movie, and she's a very interesting character in that she's trying to fight this sort of serial killer urge of her, because her father was was a killer and stuff, so she's trying to fight that urge to be a good person and stuff. I think the other characters are a bit like with Scream 4, okay, with Tara's sort of friends and stuff, I think they're sort of okay. I think, of course, the main standout is Amber, because, as you find out at the end of this movie, spoilers, she is Ghostface. But then you've also got Richie, who is Sam's boyfriend, which, to be honest, I didn't call it, but from rewatching, it does feel very obvious, because I sort of lulled into the sense of, surely someone wouldn't be this dedicated to, move to another state, make friends, become friendly with the daughter of Billy Loomis, and then so much so actually start a relationship with them and make sure everything all goes to plan so that we go back to Woodsboro. Surely they wouldn't do that. But then upon my rewatches of the entire franchise, I'm like, yes, these type of killers would be so dedicated to doing that. So it feels very obvious in hindsight that Richie is one of the killers. But I think it's great. I think Jack Quaid does great. I first saw him, of course, play Huey Campbell in The Boys. And he's pretty much just playing Huey for most of this movie until the killer reveal, when he just acts so insane. He's just so damn good. And I think this also continues the whole meta commentary with the villain's motivations so damn well. And with the modern thing, with the fact that it's all pretty much just riffing on like the whole big sort of fan cry out fallout with The Last Jedi, where, you know, like these people don't like the direction of where the film series, where the Stab in universe film series is. When IRL, it's supposed to be commentary again on Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. Like, you can definitely tell, because it's that they're talking about that, as well as the fact that the movie they don't like is the 8th Stab film, so it's very obvious there. But it's all about, like, they don't like the way the direction it's gone, so they're like, we're gonna make our own Stab movie, and we're gonna go do it back to the original, and we're gonna do it the way they should have, that the producers don't know how to do it, the way we liked it, and the way we liked it growing up and stuff. So it's a fantastic motivation, and just feels so relevant for today, with especially if you were there during when, you know, the sequel trilogy was coming out, and just the fallout of all that with what happened with The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker and all that. So I think, that's a great sort of motivation. I think all the kills are really brutal. I forgot to mention in Scream 4 has probably the most brutal kills in the whole franchise. Like, there's some gnarly stuff in it, but there's some brutal kills in this movie. Of course, the biggest thing is spoilers for this movie, even though I spoiled the killer reveals beforehand. We do lose one of the core 3 with Dewey, which is so damn sad. And it is a bit of a shame that they basically sort of do the trope where basically you find out, like, in between Scream 4 and Scream 5, Dewey and Gale divorced, and Dewey's just a miserable, just hardened, just guy who's been suspended from the police force, and he's just a grisly old guy now, which is a bit sad, and I feel like a bit dirty that they did Dewey that. But I think it's understandable why they did that, because mainly through Gale's, like, sort of perspective, in that, like, you could tell, like, I don't, like, Gale and Dewey probably weren't going to last that long. Like, Gale was just too ambitious with her reporting and stuff, and she pretty much just recycles pretty much most of her character, really. She sort of relapsed, I guess, in that, like, she's always going to be reporting, making a big famous book about these real events that affected her friends and stuff, and her friends are all just absolutely bitter at her for doing that. So, but regardless, I think the way they kill him off is, I think it works. I think it's a satisfactory sort of end for his character, but it is sad, because to be honest, I kind of prefer Dewey over Gale, even if Gale's probably the more interesting sort of character. And then that's what introduces Sydney, because Sydney's pretty much absent for the most of this movie, and it really goes to show a testament that, like, how compelling these new characters was, where Sydney only appears in, like, the second half of this movie, and I didn't miss her at all, really. Like, I thought these new characters, they did such a great job establishing this new characters who were ideally to take over from the original 3 characters, and they do, of course, in Scream 6. But I think they did such a great job that, like, when Sydney showed up, I was like, oh, hey, that's cool that you're here. Like, I didn't miss you, really. Even though I'm glad you're in this, I wasn't spending the whole movie being like, where's Sydney? Where's Sydney? I'm waiting for her to pop up. So I think, I think they did such a great job for that. And I think also, the whole thing with the final act being set in, the final act of the first movie in Stu Markner's house is cool to see, and stuff. So I think, this movie is a great return to form, even though the others were great, but this was of course the first Scream movie in like 10 years before Scream 4, and I think the new Radio Silence team did a really good job with it. Some issues here and there, but I think for the most part it was a really good return to form. Then we have what is, I think, going to be regarded as the last Scream movie for a while. The last good Scream movie, I mean, is Scream 6. Although I have heard a lot of people have issues with this film, and I think the common consensus is it's regarded as the second weakest behind Scream 3, but of course now Scream 7's like taken that title. But to be honest, I really love Scream 6. There is a lot of plot holes. There are a lot of, like, continuity issues, and some of them, like, the killer reveals, like, I get, a lot of people don't like them, but I really enjoyed this film. I think the refreshing setting to have it set in New York was great. I think the scenes with Ghostface are just absolutely intense. Like, I remember when when the promo shots were coming out and the first image was Ghostface holding a shotgun, I was like, holy crap, that's awesome. And even though it's only for one scene, I still think it was so cool. Just like, and it was also, that sequence is so cool because it's Ghostface just randomly killing out of the open, because he's chasing them down the street into that convenience store, and then he just murders all those people in the convenience store. It's just like, oh man, it's savage and brutal. So yeah, I think this one is just really great. I mean, yeah, like the killer reveals are quite sort of obvious, and not like sort of lame, and not as compelling. Like the whole thing with, of course, spoilers again for a movie that only came out a couple of years ago, with Detective Bailey being like the main ringleader, and the roommate Quinn faking her death, and as well as Ethan, who is just one of Tara's friends, which feels so obvious. He's the most obvious one, I feel, because like he's not there for when the whole is it the ladder sequence where Mindy's girlfriend dies, which is really sad because it's just so brutal the way she falls from that ladder, and just, it's just, oh man. But like, I think during that whole sequence, they're like, yeah, he's not there, and Mindy just immediately suspects him, because he says he was like at studying and stuff. So it feels so suspicious, but it doesn't pull off the same thing with the Billy Loomis thing, where it's like where in that it feels so obvious that he is the killer that he can't be. In this one, because you only get that one scene with him where they suspect him, and that's it. Like, it doesn't feel there. There's the whole thing where it tricks you. It just feels so obvious and doesn't try to make it so he's so overly top obvious that you think, okay, he won't be the killer. So yeah, they kind of fumble out a bit. But regardless, apart from everything else, I really love this film. I think Kirby being brought back is great. I think I think she's really cool as the FBI agent. I think Gail, I think you could probably kept her out of this movie, although she has probably the best moment in the movie when she hangs up on Ghostface, like when she asks him to hold, and like you hear Ghostface go, huh?
Can you hold, please?
Huh? Like that is probably the best moment in the movie. But I think apart from that, you probably could have cut her out. Like, you really didn't need her, because this movie, of course, is the first one not to have Cindy in it. So I think you could have just had the new cast all together, just only that, and I think it would have worked. I also really like Chad. I mean, Chad is not the most interesting guy, but I think he's kind of cool, and just the way I really love his bit at the end when he's like, when the Ghostface is chasing everyone in the theater, he just keeps chucking stuff at Ghostface, and then when he's cornered, he just goes in and just charges at them and just like tries to beat on them and stuff. Of course, he gets stabbed a billion times, which is a big thing people contend with, the fact that there's no way he should have lived from that. And I guess, yeah, but apparently there's been reports of people who've had as many stab wounds as Chaz did and lived. So, you know, it might not be entirely unrealistic, but I get why. But I get why people were annoyed at that. The fact that he somehow survived after like multiple stab wounds. But yeah, and I think the final act is quite cool, even though the killer reveal a lot of people don't like. I really just enjoy the way they just take out all the three killers, and of course finding out they're all Richie's family, which is great. And then just having that awesome bit where Sam dresses up as Ghostface and just stabs Bailey to death is just so damn satisfying and so cool to see. So yeah, Scream 6, I think it's great, even though it does have a lot of issues. I just really enjoy it, and given from what I've heard from Scream 7, is probably the ideal ending point of the Scream saga as a whole. So, yeah, Scream 6, great film, and potentially a great end to the franchise. Then we have a big TV show here. This is going to cut the camera. This is going to wobble the camera in a minute because it's so close to it. Here we have. I'm just going to put this over here because to make sure it doesn't fall off anywhere. There we go. We have The Sopranos. So I'm not going to go through this season by season, mainly because it all kind of blends together, to be honest, because I've only watched this once, which I watched maybe I think 2 years ago. But this is a great show. This is regarded as one of the greatest shows of all time. I sort of watched this after Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul because I'd heard like Breaking Bad / Better Call, like the Breaking Bad universe, The Sopranos and The Wire are like the trifecta of the greatest TV shows of all time. So seeing all three, I don't have The Wire here on Blu-ray mainly because you actually can't buy it anymore, and I'm not sure if I enjoyed it that much that I'd buy the Blu-rays. Even though I did enjoy that show, I thought it was very good. But I think The Sopranos I sort of preferred over The Wire, and Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul is what I think is the best show of all time. But anyway, The Sopranos is, I mean, it's fantastic. It's so influential. This was the start of like the golden era of TV, in that you have like from the 2000s, which is prestige, just really damn good drama. This is the first like really big TV show to have like an anti-hero, I guess, kind of character with Tony Soprano, in that he's this guy that sort of tricks you into rooting for him, but by the end of the show you absolutely hate him. Although it really starts off, even at the start you hate him, because I think it's like episode 4 or something is the episode when he's taking his daughter Meadow, around to different universities for like, potential college, places. And during that point, he finds a guy who ratted him out to the FBI, and you have this whole like really confronting sequence where he just strangles this guy to death, and it sort of feels like a wake-up call that 4 episodes in so far it's been glorifying this sort of character and sympathizing with his panic attacks. But then that scene just reminds you, oh, this guy's an awful person who's an absolute monster, and it just keeps on going from there. And so I think, yeah, it's really interesting. James Gandolfini is fantastic as Tony Soprano, just this very complex like guy who is the head of this mob family. Although season 1, I believe from memory, he's not the head because Junior is, and it's all about that sort of tug of war over leadership of the mafia. I think, he's just such an interesting, fascinating character. This of course provides, much like Goodfellas and The Godfather, an accurate representation of the mafia. So much so that apparently they got like calls and stuff, anonymous calls from the mafia saying how accurate this show was, like to the mafia, which is scary. Which is kind of scary, but very interesting, and just how commendable how accurate they made this show. So, I think the characters are all great. It's so fascinating because you see like the whole New Jersey mob, and it's like you have all these characters who are all very funny and very charismatic, that for the longest time, like with Tony Soprano, you empathize and have a good time with them and think they're cool and stuff. But then suddenly there's suddenly an episode where that all changes. Like they do something absolutely horrific, like whack a guy, as they say, like, which is, assassinating or shooting someone, or silencing, or like absolutely beating the crap out of women and stuff. Like, it's just, they just do the most horrendous things, and it reminds you, these guys are not good guys to look up to. These are awful people who do awful things and stuff. So I think it's just so fascinating the way the show tricks you, like with Breaking Bad and stuff. So and then of course as well with Breaking Bad, this is where the idea of the family sort of dynamic thing, where you have Tony's whole life with the mob and Tony's home life, where you see how the mob life is affecting his family and stuff, and how his relationships, with his daughter and his son and stuff, and with his wife Carmela and stuff. I think, The Sopranos is a fantastic show. It is a bit hard to sort of rewatch, both, there's some scenes that are very, very confronting. Like the Employee of the Month episode is really gnarly. Like, I don't think I'll probably watch that episode again. I might just skim through at least that first half. If you know, you know. As well as the scene with Ralph and Tracy. That's a really uncomfortable scene. But apart from that, I think the show is not as rewatchable in the sense that there's not an eager to watch the next episode after you've watched one, and that's because I believe the original idea was David Chase wanted each episode to be like a mini movie. So basically that means there's not really any cliffhangers at the end of episodes that make you like go, okay, I need to watch the next episode. I think there's only like one in the entire show where there's a big sort of cliffhanger. So because I just remember when I watched this for the first time, like comparing it to other like big TV shows like Breaking Bad, Breaking Bad, I remember like I had to watch the next episode right after the other one, even if it probably wasn't the right time to watch that episode. Whereas with The Sopranos, I was like, I would watch one episode and be like, okay, that's fine. I don't need to watch another episode today. I can watch another episode tomorrow. So there's not that eagerness to like watch the next episode, which is completely fine. It's going for a completely different thing. It's going for the idea of each episode is an individual like mini movie, and I think that works perfectly. It's just not it's not engaging as over the top as like me being eager like to like binge watch, you know. I think this works much more as just watching like an episode at a time, like one episode a day or something, you know, rather than like watching like the whole season in a day. But yeah, I think so it's a phenomenal show. It's very influential in how a lot of this kicked off the golden era of television and was regarded as what is still regarded one of the best series of all time, even with that finale, which I still think works. I think it works very well. But yeah, great show, damn good show. So check it out if you haven't. And of course, yeah, it just feels very influential with everything and stuff. So yeah, great show, damn good, phenomenal. Then we have the Many Saints of Newark, which is the prequel movie to The Sopranos. So this came out, I think, a couple of years ago. And to be honest, I enjoyed it. I know a lot of people did not like this movie. Like, a lot of Soprano fans thought this was an absolutely awful movie. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was a cool sort of origin, like a prequel really to The Sopranos, and seeing young sort of Tony Soprano, but it doesn't really focus on him. It focuses on Christopher Moltisanti's dad, Dickie, I think his name is. Is it Dickie Moltisanti? I think he's kind of an interesting sort of character. I think the actress Vera Farmer, I think that's her name is. She is excellent as playing Livia Soprano, Tony's mum. I think she's absolutely fantastic and feels so very much like the original actress who played Livia in the original show. And of course, John Bernthal plays Johnny Soprano, his dad, and I think he's great. This of course has got Ray Liotta in it, who plays a double act role with, like, he plays one mob guy and then he gets killed off, and then you introduce the guy, his twin, which I think is probably, one of the weaker aspects. Like, that feels one of the most like laziest, like most cliche, or like one of the most like ridiculous, like stupid, like tropes you could do in like any fiction, where you kill someone off and then you reveal, oh, there's another character, but he's actually got a twin. Like, it always feels quite lazy pretty much all the times they do it. So I can understand that criticism for it. But I don't know. I really enjoyed. I think it's an enjoyable one, and I think it's cool to see like the crime family back in the 60s. I think it is. Is it the 60s or 70s? Like, sort of, and sort of it being set around like the Newark riots and things like that. So I think So I think it's an enjoyable film. I think it very much is in spirit of The Sopranos, where it has the whole thing where you like empathize and idealize these characters, but then 1 second they do something absolutely horrendous, and just you really remember these are just awful people. So yeah, I think it's great. And also as well, Michael Gandolfini, I believe his name is. He's of course the son of James Gandolfini, and he plays his dad's character fantastically. So yeah, he's really good. He's also really good in the new season of in the new Daredevil show, Born Again. I think he's great. So he's a good actor and stuff. So I think he really excelled in that. But yeah, anyway, Many Saints of Newark. I enjoy it, even if a lot of people don't. Then we have the Shawshank Redemption, which you probably realized this is out of alphabetical order. This should actually go before Sopranos, but after Scream. But that's only because the Sopranos box set is right up against the separator, and so I don't want to separate the discs in there because the artwork I don't like the artwork of those because they're just plain. They're just plain character artworks. So I want to keep them all as a box set. So that's why these next 3 movies really should all go before Sopranos, but just due to shelving, they have to go after. So that's why they're alphabetical, if anyone actually noticed. But anyway, Shawshank Redemption is a great film. I watched this for the first time a couple of years ago. I think it was, I just loved it. I think it was just a great film. I think did this win Best Picture the year it came out? I think it did. Yeah, it's a beautiful movie. Really like a lot of confronting type stuff in it. But I think it's all about, you have to get over sort of you have to push through all the gnarly stuff, like in terms of the characters, like with Tim and stuff, like you have to push through in order to get like the happy ending, if you were to say, where at the end of this film, he escapes Shawshank. It's just a beautiful movie and just really damn just inspiring and just so good feeling too. Like just like, even though a lot of bad stuff happens in this movie, it's a great film. Tim Robbins, I think that's why I just called him Tim, because I thought that's his name, but no, that's the actor's name, Tim Robbins. And then Morgan Freeman is also great as Red, I think that's his name, and just really damn good. So yeah, a beautiful movie, and looking forward to checking this out on 4K, because yeah, I imagine this looks really damn good on 4K. So yeah, a beautiful movie, deserves all the praise it gets. Then we have The Shining. It's a classic. Sure, it's not accurate to the book, apparently, but regardless, I still think it's a really good film. It's a great thing. Jack Nicholson's performance is phenomenal. Just the fact that over this 2.5 hours, his mind just deteriorates to becoming this absolute psycho is great. I think I think his wife is great. I forget her name. I can't remember her name, but as well as the actress's name. But his wife is also just really damn good. And Danny is really cool. I think he's great with the way he like communicates with all the spirits and stuff, and that he has like the Shining and stuff. So I think it's really cool, and just the whole film is just visually and just really damn good and well paced and everything. Even if it's a long film, like it's 2.5 hours, which is the standard for Kubrick. But I think it's paced just really well, and just a really just damn good horror film that's just so, like, it's so crazy and so ethereal and so very much with that Lovecraftian thing that Stephen King does a lot, where with this movie, with the fact that this hotel is like alive and sentient, like that feels very much of that type of like that supernatural type, ethereal Lovecraftian type vibe of things that I very much enjoy. So yeah, The Shining is an absolute classic, one of the most iconic horror films of all time. I also need to get the sequel that came out a couple of years ago, Doctor Sleep, because I watched that and thought this is actually almost as good as this movie. So yeah, I need to get Doctor Sleep on 4K because I enjoyed the hell out of that movie. And I think it would be a great companion piece to watch this and then the Doctor Sleep. So yeah, The Shining, fantastic horror movie. Very iconic and deserves all the praise it gets, even if it's not as accurate as the original book. Then we move on to Shrek, which is a DVD. This is the DVD I think I first watched this movie on, so I need to get the complete like Shrek collection because all the movies I'm very nostalgic for. But yeah, this movie is a classic. It's damn good. A lot of people sort of argue the second movie is the better movie, but I personally still think this is still my favorite. I think that's just because of childhood nostalgia. But yeah, I think I love how it flips just the whole fairy tale genre just on its head, where you follow this ogre who just absolutely hates everyone, who then makes a deal with this lord, because he's Lord Farquaad, to rescue this princess so that he will get all of the fairy tale characters out of his land, and in the process he falls in love with this girl who finds out is also cursed by being an ogre herself. So I think it's a fantastic film that is just very heartfelt and has a lot of heart to it, and just really sweet, and just really just it's such a great way, because it just flips the whole fairy tale trope just on its head, and just provides just a really sort of unique and fresh new take on, you know, fairy tale characters and stuff. So yeah, this first movie is absolutely fantastic, just damn great, absolutely phenomenal, and really what I think put DreamWorks on the map, because I think they did a couple of things beforehand, but this was the movie that like cemented, so much so that for the longest time DreamWorks' opening logo is the fairy tale theme from this first movie. So yeah, like very influential. So yes, I need to upgrade this either to Blu-ray or 4K. I'm not sure if they have a 4K of this, of the Shrek films. I'll have to look into it, but at least the Blu-rays, because yeah, these movies are just so damn good. Then we have Snakes on a Plane. I love this movie. There's a funny story behind this. Basically for me, I only heard about this movie from my dad, because he told me there was this movie called Snakes on a Plane, and he always just thought that was so funny, the title. So we always used to make jokes about things about being like you know, snakes on a plane or snakes on a train and stuff, but I only got around to watching this movie only like a couple of years ago, and I finally watched it with him, and it was really damn good and really funny. It's not a great movie. It's not. This is like the Michael Bay type movies, where it's just you turn your brain off and just watch just a silly action blockbuster film, and I think it's just really funny, and it's just so damn good. Samuel L. Jackson is so damn good in this movie. He's of course got the iconic lines of "I've had it with these mother effing snakes on this mother effing plane," and it's just so cartoony and so cliche, but so funny at the same time. Just so ridiculous that this like Yakuza mob boss, or I can't remember what criminal empire he's part of, but this mob boss basically decides to kill a witness who witnessed him committing murder on a plane by just putting snakes on to do the job. Like, what the hell? It's so ridiculous, but it's such a damn good movie. So fun. Last time I think I watched this I watched this with my friends, and we had a great old time. This is definitely a movie you can like get some drinks together and get some friends and just have a wild time. Or it might have actually been the last time, I think when I went on a plane, when I went to Japan, I think last year actually. I think I watched this on the plane, because I felt like, what if I just watched Snakes on a Plane? Like, that's absolutely ridiculous that I did that, but I thought it was really funny. So I think that was the last time I watched this. But yeah, this movie, I love it. It's so stupid, so silly. I love all the characters, mainly Troy, the video game guy, who's basically just like one of the rappers, roadie type guys, and the fact that he has to land the plane, and he only got the only experience he's got is like playing like Flight Simulator and stuff. Like, just absolutely hilarious. But yeah, a really silly film, very over the top, but I love it to death, and it's so damn funny and just so damn quotable. So if you love dumb movies, this is right up your alley. You've probably seen it before, because I think it got very famous for its marketing of like the title of itself, like being Snakes on a Plane. Like, so yeah, I think, yeah, it's a stupid movie, but really funny. Then we have Spaceballs. This is the 25th anniversary edition. This is just the Blu-ray because I got this even after the 4K came out because at the time this was only released in the US on 4K. However, recently they've released an Arrow version. The imprint Arrow have released it for the UK. So I will probably eventually get around to picking that up because I think it's an 80s movie and 80s movies look glorious in 4K. But yeah, Spaceballs, it's fantastic. It is this superhero movie and scary movie, I think in my personal opinion, the best parody type movies because I think out of all those three, those actually try to tell a story. Like Spaceballs definitely is probably the most emblematic of that, where it is actually following a story. Sure, it's just doing A New Hope, but that's the point of it. It's supposed to be a parody. It's supposed to make fun of all this, and it has all these other elements in it, which is really funny. It's just so damn quotable and just so damn hilarious. I am very, very excited for Spaceballs 2 coming out next year, I think. Hopefully Mel Brooks lives to see that day, because that's crazy that he's making this movie when he's almost 100. So I really hope he does live to see the final product, but I'm very much looking forward to seeing seeing the sequel. And if they don't call it Spaceballs 2, The Search for More Money, I don't know what they're thinking if they don't call it that. So yeah, Spaceballs, absolutely hilarious. Arguably probably the best parody movie of all time. So yeah, hilarious, quotable, amazing. Then moving on, we have Speed on DVD. Little interesting tidbit about this. I bought this, I think, this was during the transition of me going from DVDs to Blu-rays. But I bought this at like a charity shop, and I only found out that it's got this stupid lock thing because basically, this is a bit of a flashback for a lot of people back when you bought movies from the stores. They had this whole thing that they had this locking system where the case would lock in order to prevent people from opening the case and taking and stealing the disc out. So I guess when this copy was bought from an official store, they forgot to take the labeling off, and I guess that's why they gave it away. So I picked this up, but I still haven't actually managed to unlock it yet, even though apparently there is a way you can use magnets and stuff. I just never really got bothered to do it. And especially now, considering I don't collect DVDs anymore. I think I just collect Blu-rays up and up. So basically I need to upgrade this into Blu-ray and 4K. So I've never watched this before. In terms of the DVD, I have watched Speed before. I only watched it once before getting this. That's why I bought it. But in terms of the movie, I think Speed's great. I think it's a great, fun film. I need to give it a rewatch again. I think it's just a really fun movie, very action-packed movie about the tensity of, a bus that's got a bomb on it, and if it goes below a certain speed, it will blow up. So it's damn good. A lot of people call it Die Hard on a bus because it's basically the similar plot beats of Die Hard but applied on a bus. But I think it's great. I think Keanu Reeves is great as the protagonist. Sandra Bullock is great as Annie, who's like the sort of, friend / partner of Keanu Reeves' character. And then the villain is great. I think it's Dennis Hopper who plays him. I think he's very enjoyable. And I think it's a very enjoyable, like high adrenaline type movie. It does have the sort of similar sort of issues with Scream 4 and Die Hard with a Vengeance. More so Die Hard with a Vengeance, where basically it comes to a climax with the bus exploding, and then after that, you get a little additional chase sequence. Same like Con Air, actually, yeah. Same with Con Air, where you get a nice little chase sequence. You get a chase sequence after the bus explodes, and it feels like the movie should end when the bus explodes. But of course, the killer, the main bad guy, is not on the bus. He's nowhere to be found throughout that bit. So of course you've got to have an additional chase sequence in order to take out the main villain. So, but I think that's why that sort of works here compared to Scream 4, Die Hard with a Vengeance, and Con Air and stuff. So, But yeah, Speed, great film. So yeah, I need to upgrade this on Blu-ray so I can actually properly watch it. Otherwise, I could just get some magnets, I guess, and just unlock it, even though I would probably never watch this on DVD, just because the quality of DVD now, I just can't watch the quality of DVDs if I know there's a better format available, but that's just me personally. So yeah. Then moving on, we move on to my Star Trek collection, with starting off with Star Trek: The Motion Picture, the Director's Edition. So my thoughts on Star Trek are, I like it, but I don't love it. Like, out of the what is known as the core three, like sci-fi, like big properties of Star Wars, Star Trek, and Doctor Who, Star Trek comes at the bottom of that. It's probably most likely because this was the one out of those three that I didn't grow up watching. I only got into Star Trek like a couple of years ago, and I do enjoy it. I think it's an enjoyable thing, but I just I don't love it as much as like Star Wars or Doctor Who. I mean, even Star Wars I don't love a whole lot, but I certainly love it a lot more than Star Trek. But I still really like Star Trek. I think it's very enjoyable. So I've watched a couple of things. I watched all of the first season of the original series, like all 26 episodes, which was a chore and a half, to the point where after that I just watched selective episodes. And then I got through halfway through Star Trek: The Next Generation before I just stopped watching, because again, I just felt it was such a chore to sort of watch, and knowing every season is it's 7 seasons with 22 episodes. I was just like, oh my word. I've heard every Star Trek season only gets good after its third season, because the first 2 seasons are all about setting up the characters and doing just mundane episode of the week stories. So I need to get back to rewatching The Next Generation, because people regard it as the best Star Trek show, and so influential for everything. So I need to get back to it. But for the most part, I mostly stick with the movies, because the movies are so short and just capture all the character aspects of it. So first, starting off, Star Trek: The Motion Picture. It's fine. It's enjoyable. It is very apparent that this was only made to the material made from this was just from unmade story ideas for the original series that they just put together. It's definitely trying to rip off 2001: A Space Odyssey by making these long, drawn out visual sequences that I think are all right. I don't think it doesn't make it, I don't think it accomplishes as well as 2001: A Space Odyssey, but it's not mind-bogglingly boring like a lot of people think. I think some of the sequences are really cool, like the way the Enterprise, the first Enterprise shot is fantastic. I think the scene of Spock going into the big cloud is cool, and yeah, visually it looks spectacular. On the 4K, it looks absolutely phenomenal. It just looks very, very damn good, and such a visual spectacle, which is mainly what this movie's supposed to be, just a visual sort of spectacle and stuff. So yeah, this first movie, it's okay, it's enjoyable, but it's not the best that this franchise, this series would get, which is interesting because it's the first one. Then we have Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, which is regarded as the best Star Trek film, and I would have to agree. Although it took me a bit around to come around to that, because when I first watched at least what the first 6 films, I thought Star Trek II was good but not amazing, and I kind of preferred Star Trek 4 over it. But having rewatched Wrath of Khan a lot, I think I've come around to it and being like, okay, this is probably now equally my favorite with 4. I think, yeah, it's an absolute classic. I think the reason why I love this one, come around to love it so much, it is the final act just feels like a proper sci-fi action with Khan getting his own starship and battling the Enterprise in the Nebula field. I think that's all great. I think Spock's sacrifice is great and bittersweet, and I think just everyone's just on top form for this one, and it's just a really damn good movie. So yeah, Wrath of Khan is iconic, and yeah, equally my favorite with Star Trek 4 personally. Then we have Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. This is good. This is, I guess, there's the whole thing that a lot of people comment with the theory of basically every odd numbered Star Trek film is bad. Every even number Star Trek film is good. But I think this is the only one that sort of disapproves that, because while motion picture is not great, I think it's still fine, but again, it's not amazing, or I wouldn't really class it as good. This I would actually class as good. I think this is a perfectly good film. Sure, it completely retcons Spock's death from the last film, but considering the money, I think Leonard Nimoy was just like, yeah, I'll come back, and this time I'll actually direct, because I want to try my hand at directing. And I think he does a pretty good job at directing in this. But yeah, I think, yeah, this is a good, I think it's cool. Like, we go back to the Genesis planet where we find out, like, it's now just, like, the evolution has gone out of control and unpredictable, and now, like, it's now a forbidden, like, planet to go to and even discuss. Like, you have that bit where Bones is, like, talking to that creature about Genesis, and like, apparently it's now a taboo topic where people aren't allowed to speak about it. I think that's kind of interesting. Christopher Lloyd, of course, he plays the big Klingon general, and I think he's great. Of course, this was always fascinating because he did this the year before Back to the Future came out, where that was his most iconic role of Dr. Emmett Brown. So, but I think he's really good here as the villain. The way they killed Kirk's son, David, though, bit anticlimactic and a bit of a shame, because we only get a tiny bit of sort of chemistry and sort of a couple of scenes with him and Kirk in the previous film, and he doesn't in any of this film, and just gets killed off, and it feels like a bit of a squandered potential. But yeah, it is what it is. And of course, this movie is iconic for being the first time the Enterprise blew up, and it's a very bittersweet way to send it off, and I think it does it a very good way. And such, and I think it's just a cool film where all the Enterprise crew, the core members, decide to break a Federation law and go against their orders of staying put and going to steal the Enterprise to go and rescue Spock and stuff. So yeah, it's a good film, enjoyable, but it's definitely it's the best probably of the odd numbered Star Trek films. But it's good. It's good. Then we have Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home, which, as I said before, when I first watched all these movies, was my favorite of all the movies. And while I think now Wrath of Khan has sort of slightly overtaken it, I still love this movie. It's crazy too, because how can they make a movie about going back in time to grabbing two whales to save the world? How does that result in a good movie? But it does. Like, it's so good. I think it's just the time travel aspect that makes me love this one so much, where, the Enterprise crew goes back to the 80s in order to get these whales, because they're extinct back in their timeline. So I think it's really cool to see them interacting with the present day at the time. I think it's just really fun to see them just so out of water, like fish out of water, and so out of their depth in this time period. So yeah, I think it's really fun, really cool, and just a really fun movie as such. So yeah, Star Trek 4, fun, just an absolute fun film, and a nice closure to this sort of story arc that sort of started with Wrath of Khan, with them trying to find Spock, and then them being outlawed by the Federation, and then of course this movie ends with them finally returning to the Federation, now in debt to the Federation, but still there's a big court case sort of thing where Kirk gets his rank demoted back down to captain, which is not really a loss in his eyes, and not a loss in anyone's eyes, because that's who Captain Kirk is. Like, he's not an admiral, he's a captain. So yeah, Star Trek 4, a great film, and a nice closure to this sort of little story arc that these films sort of had. Then we have Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, which is regarded as the worst in the franchise, and I can see it. I think it's an interesting idea to have Spock have a secret brother, but his whole thing about wanting to find God is just bizarre. And then you have the end of the film where he finds God, but God is like evil, even though it's not supposed to be God or something. So bizarre. There's also this whole thing where there's this I'm trying to remember, there's like this whole plot with this like high princess or something that is like, they're trying to make some deal with some, is it the Vulcans? I can't remember. Vulcans? No, not the Vulcans. The Romulans. Vulcan is, of course, Spock's home world. You can tell I'm not a massive fan. I don't absolutely love Star Trek. I just really like it. But I think she's doing there's some sort of conspiracy thing with the Romulans from memory. I can't remember. I watched this, I think, maybe like 2 years ago. I rewatched this 2 years ago. But I just don't remember much about it. All I remember is the beginning and the end. With the beginning of Spock, Kirk and Bones having a camping out, and then at the end of the film, they all go to this cave where a blue light and a face of seemingly God appears. Like, that's all I remember of this movie. But yeah, this movie from memory, not great, and understandable why this almost killed the franchise, apparently. So yeah, shame. Apparently also William Shatner decided to give this a try directing, because Leonard Nimoy had directed the past two. So I think William Shatner was like, I'll have a go at this, and I guess considering he never did another one after this, it didn't go too well. So yeah, Star Trek 5. Ugh. Then we have Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country, which is great. This has got I believe the same director who did Wrath of Khan. They brought him back to come and do this. And this very much billed as like the final film with the original series crew, because when this film was being made, I think the Next Generation had just started airing. So this was basically supposed to sort of bridge the gap there with wrapping up, seeing how like the original series crew retired and went on their last mission and stuff. And I think it's a great one. I think it is very much, I love the idea to have this one to show how the Klingons and the Federation finally reconciled. Because as we see in the Next Generation, they're now supportive of one another, with Klingons like Worf being a part of the Federation and stuff. So it's cool to see how like that formation was formed, and it's great that they formed the plot around this murder mystery about like trying to figure out who was trying to sabotage this peace treaty with between the Klingons and the Federation. I think, yeah, it's a great sort of film, and I think it's also great for a couple of characters. Like, I think Spock is great in this, and he's really nasty at points. Like the scene in when you find out who the killer is. Spoilers for the movie, when you find out who the saboteur is, it being this science lady who's a Vulcan, like Spock. And basically you find out, yeah, because she's got all these xenophobic like opinions on the Klingons and stuff. And then he basically does, I think from memory, like Spock then like mind melds and like tortures her to get information out of her. It's like one of the most darkest things like in Star Trek you see of him just like basically torturing this woman to get information out of her. It's really quite confronting and stuff. And it's like, whoa, Spock, like that's a bit gnarly and hardcore. But yeah, I think this movie, is a great film. A very interesting decision to make it like a political type thriller thing, where it's like, it's all about trying to keep this peace treaty in order to get this peace treaty signed. Because it's like there's so much tension in it. Like if someone gets killed or something, the other side's going to think it's going to be sabotaged by the other side, and so this whole peace treaty is just going to be null and void, and Klingon and Federation relations are going to be set back so many years. So it's a very tense film, but I think and that's what makes it really enjoyable and really cool as the final film for the original series crew. So it's a great send-off for the crew themselves. Then we have Star Trek Generations, the overlapping or the passing of the torch film. And we now start following the Next Generation crew. But this is, of course, the passing of the torch, where it's Captain Picard meets Captain James T. Kirk, and I mean, it's okay. It's enjoyable. It's fine, really. I think, yeah, it's it's definitely not as good as it should have been. I've only watched this once, because basically I rewatched all these intending to do a big marathon where basically, I think I started this like maybe like 3 or 4 years ago where I watched all of Star Trek, the original series, or like, at least the first season, then I started dabbling in a couple of things. And then I watched maybe a bit of the animated series, and then I rewatched the first 6 Star Trek films. So that alone took me like maybe like 3 years, and then I started watching Star Trek: The Next Generation, because of course these films take place after all of the show. But then I just trailed off and haven't got back since. So I've only watched these once when I first watched them all the way through. Because I first started with watching the films before the TV show. So this was my sort of introduction to the Next Generation crew, and they're cool. I think it's kind of cool. This will, of course, starts a sort of little sort of story arc, mainly with Data, where I think from memory, he's trying to become like more human-like. So there's a lot of sort of philosophical things about what is to be human and such, and it's all about, I think, across these next 4 films, it's all about him trying to become sort of humans and stuff. So there's a little character arc there, which is kind of nice. But yeah, this movie, I think from memory, is just, it's okay. Like, it's basically the first half from memory is pretty forgettable. But you do have another instance of, this is the next instance of the Enterprise being destroyed because it's the start of this new era of the Next Generation where they get a new Enterprise and type stuff. So that's quite memorable. But then afterwards is when it's sort of the main memorable bit is when Picard gets stuck in the Nexus and basically he teams up with Captain Kirk, which is cool to see. But from memory, I just remember it being sort of okay, and then Kirk's death is like sort of is okay, but not as epic or as memorable as really it should have been. Like, he basically just falls off a cliff, really, from memory. So yeah, you can probably tell I have only watched this movie once because I don't remember much about it. So but yeah, Star Trek Generations, okay. Then we have Star Trek First Contact, which is, I think, regarded as the best of the Next Generation films. And from memory, I think I would agree. I think it's very interesting in that it's similar to Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home, where it's all about time travel. But this time it's with the Borg. I think it's very cool. I think from memory, I really liked it. It's, again, the Next Generation films, like I said before, I haven't watched these in so long. I think it's been maybe over 6 years since I last watched these films, and that was when I was first starting to get into Star Trek. So I barely remember these movies, but I remember First Contact enjoying quite a lot. I think because it's all about trying to prevent the first alien contact with Earth. I think with the Borg trying to prevent that. And so I remember it being really interesting. So wish I could say more about it, but I remember just really liking it. So I need to give these all a big rewatch. Either I just skip over the rest of the Next Generation and just come straight to these, although I probably shouldn't, because the whole point of watching all this was because to understand all the character dynamics that are set up in these movies that are established in the show. So maybe I'll definitely get around at some point to finishing off the show. But for now, I think I'll just leave it for now. So, but yeah, I need to give these a rewatch. Then we have Star Trek Insurrection, which is a alright movie. I think very generic. I remember a lot of people saying this feels like a Star Trek episode, just stretched out to an hour and a half or 2 hours or whatever it is. And I think I very much can see that. Like, there's not a lot of special stuff that happens in this one. This is, of course, directed by Jonathan Frakes, who did Star Trek First Contact before. So it keeps that sort of tradition of Star Trek actors getting confident enough to direct their own Star Trek movies. So I think First Contact is better, but I think, this from memory was okay. I don't remember too much about it, but it does feel very much just like an episode of The Next Generation. Now, having watched at least half of the first season, I can see, like, from looking back and thinking about what was in this movie, I'm like, okay, yeah, that does just feel like an episode of TNG just stretched out into a movie format. So yeah, not much to remember about this one personally, but maybe a rewatch will change that. Then we have Star Trek Nemesis, what was the final nail in the coffin, really, for the Star Trek franchise for a while, because this came out in 2002, and while there was Star Trek Enterprise coming out at the time, that only lasted for like 3 more years after this came out. So basically, between 2005 and 2009, there was this massive drought of just Star Trek content, and I think this definitely contributed, because I mean, from memory, I remember it not being that great. Apparently, the guy who directed this never really liked Star Trek. So, and I guess you can kind of see that, because it doesn't feel really that Star Trek-like at all. So much so, it feels like makes sense why they followed this up with the Picard TV show, which I did actually watch when the first season came out. Yeah, I watched that first before I watched Star Trek: The Next Generation. That's absolutely crazy, I know. However, I think that whole show was crap. I watched the first season as it came out, as well as I watched half of the second season as it came out. But then during the week by week episodes, I kind of I fell off it, like, not intentionally. And then by the time I was thinking of going back to it, I found out that the rest of the season was absolutely awful, and just, yeah, so 2 bad seasons in a row. I was just like, okay, not gonna watch this show anymore. Even though I heard when season 3 came out, and it was pretty much a course correction by basically just doing the Next Generation season 8. I just haven't gone back to it, because frankly, there's other shows and stuff I want to watch over Star Trek, but that's just me personally. It sounds like I really do hate Star Trek. I don't. I'm not a massive fan of it. I think I really just like to stick with the movies, I think, because they're just short and simple, but I do need to watch the rest of the shows. I need to get around to that personally. But anyway, Star Trek Nemesis is absolutely silly. The whole thing with the Romulan clone of Picard, played by Tom Hardy, funnily enough, in one of his earliest roles, is amusing. But yeah, the tone of it just feels so dark and sort of just not Star Trek-like. It just feels so bizarre from memory. Of course, this one also kills off Data at the end. So, yeah, and it's okay, I guess. But yeah, again, don't remember a thing about this. So, yeah, that's Star Trek Nemesis, really. It does feel a bit of a damn squib, really, for the original Star Trek franchise, because this was the last film before they got rebooted with J.J. Abrams. And although, to be fair, it's weird, like, this does not feel like a movie that came out in 2002. This feels like a movie that came out, like, at least towards, like maybe 1999 or 2000. Like, it being in the same year as, like, Spider-Man or Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets or Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, like, it does not feel like that. This feels like it still belongs in the 90s, really, just the way everyone looks and the way it's filmed. But yeah, it came out in 2002, which is bizarre. So yeah, basically what sort of killed the franchise for a while, even though Enterprise was still running at the time. But yeah, so that's Star Trek Nemesis, an alright film. No, not an alright film, not a great film. But from memory, I thought it was fine. And then finally on this shelf, I just have here the Star Trek Stardate Collection, which is just all the 10 movies just in Blu-ray format, just because I wanted them on standard Blu-ray, because originally I got all the films on DVD, and so I got the DVD version of this film, but I wanted to upgrade this to Blu-ray because, yeah, Blu-ray quality is better, even though I got the 4Ks. As you would have probably seen before, all the 4Ks here don't have the additional Blu-ray disc, so I bought this on eBay for a decent price, and basically a nice little box set here that just has all 10 films in it. So yeah, that's cool. Just have it there just because it's on Blu-ray. So yeah. So now we finally move on to the last row of the collection. So we're in the end game now, but we've still got quite a bit to get through. So, continuing with the last bits of my Star Trek section, we have Star Trek, the 2009 reboot by J.J. Abrams. I personally enjoy it. This is admittedly the first few Star Trek films I sort of watched, because like I think it was mainly because these were the new ones and they were very much my type of film where they're a bit more action oriented compared to what Star Trek is traditionally about, with like exploration and philosophy and stuff like that. Like Star Trek's never been that massive on action, but this tries to make it an action movie, and I enjoy it, even though, yeah, it is just trying to do, it's pretty much trying to do Star Wars, basically, which is what, of course, J.J. Abrams did after he did 2 of these movies. But I personally enjoy them. I think visually they look fantastic. I'm very much looking forward to checking these out on 4K, because I bought them because I bought them on 4K because it was like, these would look absolutely incredible on 4K. So, and this first one, I remember just really enjoying. I think the new cast is absolutely brilliant. One of the most perfectly recasted cast of a legacy like property or franchise. I think everyone just brings it their all and just feels like the original series cast in pure form. So, yeah, I really enjoy this first movie. I think it's great, and just the visual effects are just kick-ass. And I also love the way it treats the original series timeline, where like the prime timeline, as it were, with respect, by the fact that this is not actually technically supposed to be a reboot. This is just an alternative timeline, since you have original old Spock coming into the fray and rescuing Kirk in this. So it's like, and the whole villain's plot involves with time travel with the black hole and such. So I think, yeah, it treats the series with respect and feels like a good sort of, makes it so you can have both. You can have, if you prefer the original series or the original series timeline, then that's still happened. But if you like this new era, you've got these new movies. And so yeah, I really enjoy this first one. Looking forward to checking it out on 4K. Then we have Star Trek Into Darkness. A lot of people don't like this one, but this, for a long time, before I watched the other Star Trek movies, was my favorite. It's definitely, you can see by even the cover art itself, it isn't a Star Trek movie. It's just a big action a big action espionage film, with Star Trek characters in it, basically. But I still really enjoy it, even though there's just a lot of stupid stuff in it. I think Benedict Cumberbatch as, I think his name is John Harrison at the start, but the whole time you knew he was going to be Khan. I think he is great, although it doesn't really explain the timeline differences, considering what nationality the original actor for Khan is compared to Benedict Cumberbatch. It's like, doesn't really add up that they would be the same guy who would be called Khan, but whatever. The whole Khan thing is, I think, apart from the character itself, the whole setup and reveal for them is, not great. It is purely there just to appeal to the audience. Like the whole scene where he's like, "My name is Khan," like, and this dramatic reveal. I think everyone's pointed that out, where it's like, it's not a reveal for the characters because they have no idea who this guy is. It's purely for the audience, because I believe when this was coming out, there was so much like J.J. Abrams was just telling everyone, it's like it was doing the Andrew Garfield thing, where he was just saying Khan is not the main bad guy in this movie. Benedict Cumberbatch is not playing Khan. Jokes, he is. So I think everyone was just not, it was very just like unsurprised by that reveal, and it feels quite lame because it's only there to tease the audience rather than to reveal to the characters, because they have no idea who he is. Like, the only way they find out is from old Spock. But yeah, apart from that, I think, yeah, it's a really fun movie. I think the action is really great. I think that final act where it's like just like Khan and the Enterprise facing off with Khan in like the specially designed military starship that the head of Federation has made, because he's all hardcore about war and stuff, wanting to go to war for the Klingons and stuff. I think that's great, and I think the scene of I think it's the Vengeance from memory, that's what it's called, the Vengeance crashing into San Francisco is ridiculously over the top, but I enjoyed the crap out of it. So, and then you get that really awesome final fight between Spock and Khan, where Spock is just so pissed, which is something I really like about these movies, is they very much explore more the humanity side of Spock, since we know he's half human, half Vulcan. So you see in these movies particularly, like, there are times when his rage gets the better of him and he lets out human emotions that overcome his logic Vulcan mind. So that's quite cool. But yeah, this movie I enjoy it, but I can understand, having watched more sort of Star Trek, it's not really Star Trek at all. So, but yeah, again, need to watch this on 4K since I bought it, but I'm looking forward to giving it, because his J.J. Abrams movies just actually look very nice in 4K, so, and I imagine they would look good on 4K, so yeah. Then we have Star Trek Beyond, which is really good. I think this is considered the best of the trilogy among like Star Trek fans, because I believe this was partly written by Simon Pegg, who plays Scotty in this trilogy, and he was one of the writers, and I believe you can tell, because I think he is a massive Star Trek fan, and he knows a lot about Star Trek, so this one feels the most like classic Star Trek in it, where it's basically just like the Enterprise, the Enterprise is destroyed in this one. It's completely destroyed, and they're just stuck on this planet where they have to survive from these, and find out why these creatures have attacked the Enterprise and stuff. So I think this one gets the most classic, and it feels the most Star Trek in sort of tone, even if you get some like really wild action set pieces, like the Enterprise being destroyed, or I think is it the Beastie Boys scene, where they launch the shuttle and the wave of swarms just get absolutely decimated. That's really cool. But again, it does feel quite very sort of sometimes a bit too action heavy and more Star Warsy than Star Trek. But I think for the most part, this one does it the best. It balances it well. I think, just everyone is on top form here. I think it's also, I think it's a good team up where they separate the whole crew up into several teams. You've got Kirk, Scotty, and Chekhov as one group, and then you've also got Spock and Bones as another team, and then you've got Uhura, and I think Uhura's just with all the other just all the red shirts and stuff. So, but I think it's a really cool film, really fun. And I think it's also an interesting look with the villain. I think his name is Kral from memory, where you get introduced to Federation type history and stuff, and you sort of find out all this stuff about what happened on this planet and stuff with the Federation and stuff. So I think this one is great, and it has that really, really cool planet that's first introduced in the opening, I think, from memory, of this movie, where it's like this cool nebula sort of planet where there's just buildings built over it's all very much non-connected. It's all up in the sky, and the gravity's all different. It looks very much similar to the Halo rings in in Halo and stuff. So I think that's just a really cool location, and really cool for it to be the final act location. But anyway, I think this is the best one. I think I really do enjoy it, and I think a lot of people, it is a very enjoyable film, and it really sucks that we haven't gotten another one after this, because I think the fourth one has been in development hell for the past 10 years, because as the time of recording, it's 2026. This came out 10 years ago, so that's a shame too. So I was hoping they could get it, but I was hoping they would
would make a new one, because I really love this cast and I would have really liked to see where they went, especially with the new writers and the new director, because this of course also wasn't directed by J.J. Abrams, because he was busy doing the sequel trilogy, the Star Wars sequel trilogy during this point. So it was Justin Lin who did it, who's done a couple of Fast and Furious movies, and I thought he did really well making this movie. I think, yeah, his directing was pretty solid. So yeah, Star Trek Beyond is great and the best of this trilogy, I'd probably say. Even though I like the other two, I think quality-wise, this is the best one. So yeah, I think, yeah, it's great. And I really wish we would get a new one, but for now, this seems to be the end of this, of the Kelvin timeline. So, and as an end for it, it's pretty satisfactory.
So that brings to the end of another part of the 4K Blu-ray and DVD collection. Next time, we will be looking at a couple other, again, different franchises and stuff. So immediately we'll be starting with Star Wars, as well as also talking about Terminator as well. So look forward to that. Take care, and I'll see you in the next part.